Have you ever wondered how an entire civilization thrived in one of the most unforgiving landscapes on Earth without modern refrigeration? The Inuit, indigenous to the Arctic, became true survival experts by learning the secrets of their frozen world. Imagine living where winter never truly leaves, where the wind howls like a hungry wolf and the sun hides for months. In a world where temperatures plummet to minus 50 degrees Fahrenheit, keeping food fresh isn't just a convenience, but it's a matter of life and death. But the Inuit didn't just survive, they thrived. They didn't have grocery stores or fancy refrigerators, yet they found clever ways to keep their food safe and nutritious all year round. Through wisdom passed down from generation to generation, they mastered techniques that turned nature into their greatest ally. Their ability to store meat for months, even years, was a skill as important as knowing how to hunt. Instead of worrying about spoiled food, the Inuit let the Arctic do the work for them. The freezing air became their refrigerator, the underground earth their hidden pantry, and even time itself helped transform their food into something even better. Every trick they used was a lesson in patience, respect for nature, and the art of making the most of what the land provided. In this journey, we will uncover their secrets, how they stored their meat in the ice, how they turned raw meat into age-old delicacies, and how they made sure nothing ever went to waste. So bundle up and get ready to step into a world where survival meets ingenuity, where the cold isn't an enemy but a friend, and where every piece of food tells a story of resilience and resourcefulness. The Arctic itself acts as a massive freezer, a place where the air is so cold that your breath turns into tiny ice crystals the moment you exhale. The Inuit, like nature's best problem solvers, figured out how to use this icy world to their advantage. Instead of worrying about meat going bad, they simply let the cold do all the work for them. During the winter, when the land was covered in a thick blanket of snow and the wind howled like a pack of wolves, the Inuit would store their freshly hunted meat right outside. The freezing air would turn it as solid as a rock, locking in all the goodness and keeping it safe to eat for months. There were no refrigerators or freezers in their homes, but they didn't need them. But what about the times when winter loosened its icy grip and the sun started warming the land? The Inuit had a clever trick for that too. They dug deep holes in the ground where the earth stayed frozen even when the surface started to warm up. These special storage spots, like nature's secret ice chests, kept the meat cold and fresh all year long. Even when the top layer of the ground turned soft, the deeper layers stayed as cold as a block of ice, stopping the meat from spoiling. It was like having a magic underground freezer where food could rest safely until it was needed. These underground food caches were more than just holes in the ground. They were carefully planned and placed where the cold would last the longest. Some were lined with stones or covered with thick layers of snow to keep them even colder, like wrapping food in nature's thickest winter coat. The Inuit knew just where to dig these storage pits, picking spots where the wind could sweep away the snow and keep the earth frozen solid. Even the way the meat was stored was carefully thought out. Large chunks were stacked in an orderly fashion like puzzle pieces, making it easy to grab what was needed without disturbing the rest. This way, they could take only what they needed, leaving the rest safely preserved for later. It was as if they had their hidden food vault, buried beneath the ice, always ready to provide. This natural refrigeration system wasn't just smart, it was essential for survival. In a land where food could be scarce, wasting even a single bite was unthinkable. By using the Arctic's freezing grip to their advantage, the Inuit ensured that their people never went hungry, even in the harshest of winters. This way, no matter how tough the seasons became, they always had food ready, allowing them to focus on the next great adventure, hunting, traveling, and living in harmony with the land. Now, imagine if you could turn meat into a time capsule of nutrition, something that could last for months without going bad. That's exactly what the Inuit did with fermentation, a method that might seem strange to us but was a brilliant way to preserve food. One of the most fascinating preservation methods was igunak. This process was like nature's slow cooker, But instead of heat, it used time and the magic of the earth. Fresh meat, usually walrus or seal, was carefully buried underground, where it would rest for several months. Picture placing a secret treasure deep beneath the earth, letting nature work its magic over time. While hidden beneath the surface, the meat slowly transformed, softening like butter left in the sun and soaking in all the rich flavors nature had to offer. The cold earth acted like a guardian, wrapping the meat in a protective embrace, shielding it from anything that could spoil it. When the Inuit dug it up, the meat was not only still good to eat, but it had also turned into a flavorful, energy-packed meal, perfect for surviving the toughest winters. Another incredible dish is kiviak, which might just be one of the most unique foods in the world. Imagine taking a whole seal and filling it with hundreds of tiny birds. Yes, you heard me right, birds. It might sound like something from a storybook, but for the Inuit, it was a real and practical way to ensure they had food during the darkest months. The seal was sealed up tight, like a snug winter coat, trapping in all the natural oils and fats. Over time, as the seal's fat surrounded the birds, they would slowly ferment, turning into a rich, soft food that could be eaten straight from the seal. To someone unfamiliar with it, kiviak might seem like an unusual dish, but for the Inuit, it was a lifesaver. When winter came and hunting was difficult, kiviak was a high-energy meal that could keep them warm and strong. Just like how a bear builds up fat for hibernation, the Inuit knew they needed to keep their bodies fueled with the best nutrients possible, and fermentation was a clever way to ensure they had what they needed. These traditional methods of fermentation were not just about storing food. They were about making sure the Inuit had the best possible nutrition. The long Arctic winters were unforgiving, and fresh fruits and vegetables were almost impossible to find. But by aging their meat in these special ways, the Inuit made sure they were getting all the vitamins and minerals they needed without ever needing a grocery store. It was a lesson in patience and understanding the land, and in using every resource to its fullest, ensuring survival in one of the harshest environments on Earth. Smoking was another way the Inuit preserved their food, but it required something precious: fire. Since wood was scarce in the Arctic, smoking meat was not as common as drying, but when the opportunity arose, it was an effective way to add flavor and extend the shelf life of their food. Imagine a small fire crackling, sending up curls of fragrant smoke that wrapped around the hanging meat like a warm embrace on a freezing day. The smoke didn't just add a deep, rich taste, it also acted as a protector, keeping bugs and harmful germs away. It was like draping the food in an invisible cloak of safety, shielding it from anything that might cause it to spoil. Smoking meat took patience, like waiting for the ice to thaw in spring. The Inuit would hang their fish, seal, or caribou near the slow-burning fire for hours, sometimes even days. The smoke danced through the air, swirling around the meat, infusing it with a smoky taste that made every bite more flavorful. This method not only preserved their food, but also made it taste even better, a well-earned reward after a long day of hard work. Different types of wood created different flavors, and although the Inuit had limited wood sources, they knew how to make the most of what they had. When driftwood washed ashore, it was collected carefully and used to produce just the right amount of smoke. The scent of smoldering wood mixed with the aroma of the meat, creating a rich, mouth-watering fragrance that signaled a meal worth waiting for. Each type of wood lent its character to the meat. Some added a slightly sweet touch, while others gave a stronger, earthier taste. The Inuit knew how to balance these flavors, turning the simple act of smoking meat into an art. Smoking wasn't just about preserving food, it was a tradition. Families gathered around the fire, sharing stories as the smoke curled upward like whispers to the sky. Grandparents passed down knowledge to children, teaching them the right way to build a fire, how to hang the meat just so, and when to know it was ready. The glowing embers cast flickering shadows as laughter and conversation filled the air, turning the act of smoking meat into a moment of togetherness and learning. When the process was complete, the smoked meat wasn't just food, it was a treasure. It carried the warmth of the fire, the wisdom of generations, and the deep, rich flavor of survival itself. Whether packed away for long journeys or saved for the harshest winter months, it was a reminder of the Inuits' ingenuity, patience, and respect for the land that sustained them. Drying was one of the simplest and most effective ways the Inuit preserved their meat. Strips of caribou, seal, or fish were carefully hung in the frigid Arctic air, where the cold wind whisked away moisture. Without water inside, bacteria had no chance to grow, and the meat could stay safe to eat for an incredibly long time. It was like nature's own jerky-making machine, turning fresh meat into a lightweight, long-lasting food source, perfect for travel. Hunters could carry these dried strips in their clothing, always ready for a quick bite of energy while trekking through the icy wilderness. The drying process wasn't rushed. The meat was left out for days, sometimes weeks, slowly hardening until it became chewy and tough. The sun played a small role in drying, but the wind was the true hero, acting like an invisible chef who prepared their food without fire or tools. The meat would sway in the breeze as if dancing to an ancient rhythm, while the air worked its magic. This method ensured that even in the coldest months, food was always available when needed. Sometimes the Inuit would place their drying racks near the shore, where salty sea breezes helped flavor the meat naturally. Over time, they learned the perfect balance. Too much exposure and the meat became brittle. Too little and it wouldn't last as long. It was a delicate process, guided by experience and deep respect for nature's ways. To further protect their dried meat, the Inuit would sometimes wrap it in animal skins or store it in pouches made from seal intestines, creating a natural barrier against moisture and pests. These carefully stored rations became their lifeline during harsh winters or long journeys, ensuring that no matter how far they traveled or how deep the snow became, they always had a reliable source of energy tucked away. The taste of dried meat was a reminder of the land itself, salty from the sea air, rich with the flavors of the animal, and carrying the crisp freshness of the Arctic wind. Eating a strip of dried fish or caribou was more than just filling an empty stomach. It was like taking a bite of survival itself, a testament to the Inuits' wisdom in using the elements to their advantage. For the Inuit, preserving meat wasn't just about storage, it was about survival. Every part of an animal had a role in ensuring food lasted as long as possible. Imagine taking apart a giant puzzle where each piece had a special job to keep the Inuit strong and well-fed. That's how they saw the animals they hunted. The thick, fatty blubber of a seal or whale wasn't just for warmth, it was also a powerful meat preserver. The Inuit would render this fat into oil and use it to coat meat, sealing out air and keeping it fresh for months. This method acted like nature's vacuum seal, preventing bacteria from spoiling the food. It was as if the meat was wrapped in an invisible shield, protected from the elements so it could be enjoyed long after the hunt. Drying was another essential technique. Strips of caribou, seal, or fish were carefully hung in the frigid Arctic air, where the cold wind whisked away moisture. Without water inside, bacteria had no chance to grow and the meat could stay safe to eat for an incredibly long time. It was like nature's own jerky-making machine, turning fresh meat into a lightweight, long-lasting food source perfect for travel. Hunters could carry these dried strips in their clothing, always ready for a quick bite of energy while trekking through the icy wilderness. Even bones played a role in preservation. Marrow, the rich substance inside bones, was carefully extracted and stored separately. It provided vital nutrition, especially during the darkest, coldest months when fresh food was scarce. The bones themselves weren't discarded either. They were sometimes cracked open later to extract every last bit of nourishment, like nature's version of a hidden feast waiting to be unlocked. And what about the intestines? These were cleaned and repurposed as storage containers. They acted like natural sausage casings, keeping smaller portions of meat protected from the air. The Inuit had no plastic or glass jars, but they didn't need them. They had nature's perfect packaging. These natural pouches kept food fresh and easy to carry, ensuring that not a single scrap of nourishment went to waste. Even the smallest scraps of an animal were put to good use. Tendons, the tough bands inside an animal's body, were turned into a string or strong thread. The Inuit used them to sew warm clothes, stitch together sleds, and even string bows for hunting. Nothing was wasted because everything had value. Using every part of the animal wasn't just smart, it was necessary. The Inuit understood that every creature was a gift, and wasting any part of it would be like throwing away a lifeline. Their knowledge of preservation ensured that their food lasted through the harshest winters, keeping their people strong and ready for whatever the Arctic threw their way. To the Inuit, meat preservation wasn't just about storing food. It was about respecting the land, honoring the animals, and ensuring survival for generations to come. They turned every hunt into a lesson in gratitude, making sure that nothing was left behind. In their world, every fur, bone, and drop of oil had a purpose, weaving a beautiful, unbreakable connection between people, animals, and the Arctic itself. Imagine walking through a world where everything is frozen, where the air stings your cheeks and the ground is as hard as stone. In this icy kingdom, food must be kept safe, not just from the cold, but also from hungry animals that prowl in search of a free meal. The Inuit, being experts on their land, discovered a brilliant trick, using ice and snow to create natural refrigerators. They would carve out small caves in solid ice or stack blocks of packed snow to build igloo-like storage spaces. These were not just random piles of ice, they were carefully crafted shelters, each one like a hidden treasure chest beneath the Arctic sky. Inside, the cold air swirled around, wrapping the meat and fish in an icy embrace, keeping it frozen solid for months. It was as if nature itself had provided them with a magical vault, locking in their food's freshness until it was needed. But why stop at just piling snow? The Inuit knew how to make these ice caches even stronger. They reinforced them with layers of snow, packing it down tightly so that the cold air stayed trapped inside, like sealing a box to keep its contents fresh. Some even lined the storage areas with slabs of ice, making the walls as strong as a fortress. No wandering fox or curious polar bear could easily break in. These ice caches were not placed just anywhere. They were built near hunting grounds or close to their homes, so that food was always within reach. If you could peek inside one, you might see neatly stacked fish, caribou meat, or even seal blubber, all waiting patiently for the day they would be eaten. Instead of running to a grocery store, the Inuit simply reached into their frozen pantries, knowing their food was safe beneath nature's icy blanket. This clever way of storing food was more than just a convenience. It was survival at its finest. With these hidden ice safes, the Inuit never had to worry about food spoiling, even when the sun disappeared for months and the world became a frozen desert. Like skilled planners mapping out a great adventure, they prepared for the future, ensuring that no matter how harsh the winter became, they would always have enough to eat. Their ice caches were not just storage spaces, they were lifelines, testaments to their deep understanding of the land and their ability to turn the Arctic's freezing grip into an ally rather than a foe. Modern science is beginning to appreciate the brilliance of Inuit food preservation techniques. Their diet, rich in fatty fish and marine mammals, provided them with the strength and warmth needed to withstand the brutal Arctic cold. High in omega-3 fatty acids, these foods help to keep their hearts healthy, their minds sharp, and their bodies strong. Despite eating a diet heavy in fat, the Inuit had astonishingly low rates of heart disease, showing that their traditional foods held secrets modern nutritionists are only beginning to understand. But the Inuits' diet wasn't just about nutrition, it was about survival. By fermenting, drying, freezing, and smoking their food, they created meals that lasted through the toughest winters. Their methods didn't just keep food from spoiling, they ensured every bite was packed with energy and nutrients, even when fresh food was scarce. Today we rely on refrigerators, canned goods, and preservatives, but the Inuit remind us that nature provides all the tools necessary for food preservation, if we are willing to learn from it. Their ability to keep meat fresh year-round stands as a testament to human ingenuity, adaptation, and respect for the land. The next time you open your fridge or unwrap a store-bought snack, remember the lessons of the Inuit. That patience, resourcefulness, and a deep connection to nature can turn even the harshest conditions into a place where life not only survives, but thrives. If you enjoyed this video, you'll love this next one more.